Alright, so this is going to be the second video I'm making on this. Quick just introduction about this if you haven't seen the other one. My name is Zach, I'm a game dev student, and I'm making Warframe from scratch to the best of my abilities. It's a long-term project. I don't plan on finishing it ever, probably, but I just want to keep working on it as much as I can. And everything's completely from scratch. If you want to hear more about it, go watch the other video. But this is just going to be a quick progress update. I spent a lot of the last month stuck on one thing in particular, so I'm probably going to go into a lot of the technical details of that, because I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, and I kind of want to document the whole process I went through of all the different ways I designed the system. But first I'm just going to do a very quick showcase of what I've added since last time, before I get into all the technical stuff. So there's a main menu. It's obviously very plain and boring, but I just wanted to add a main menu that works. And then things I've added since last time, you can now have, first of all, I've added interactables. So not only this, which actually has full UI now, but actual weapons that you can pick up. I've added support for multiple different weapons. So right now you can hold up to an infinite amount of weapons, but probably cap it at 3 like Warframe. But I just wanted to design it with future proofing intentions, so if I ever want to change things and make it so you can hold 20 guns, I can. But so yeah, I've added support for multiple weapons. I've reworked the whole projectile system, which is the main thing that I've been stuck on this last month. So that's what I'll be talking about in a lot of detail later. But I reworked the whole projectile system, and to show it off, I designed this kind of experimental weapon, which is this one I'm holding right now, which you can actually go in and adjust all of the like stats of while you're in the game, which I've just been having fun playing around with this and testing my new projectile system and making sure it's working. So I can just quickly show that off. Can make like, I don't know, maybe 20 multi-shot. Super fast fire. It'll only, the fastest it can possibly fire is once per tick, so it'll probably actually be firing around like 100 to 150 shots per second when I put it this high. But then we can just do that, and yeah, so I can have all these projectiles and I can make all sorts of fun weapons. Then that's another thing I've added since last time, is I got damage numbers all working. And then I'm really happy with how this UI turned out. It's very similar to Warframe. But yeah, the projectile system is very, very fun. I've designed it so it's very, you know, adjustable, and I can pretty much make any weapon I want in the game by adjusting all these things. Like, you know, if I make this 50 velocity and we go like maybe just 2 multi-shot, we'll keep the fast fire rate, and then we go very low spread. Actually, we'll go 1, just so there's still a little bit. And then with something like this, bam, now I've made, oh, we need to lower that bullet velocity by a lot to like 10 maybe. And bam, now I've made, you know, a rifle. Although realistically in Warframe it would probably be like around 25 fire rate. Probably, yeah, that's more like an actual rifle. And yeah, got all the damage numbers working, got everything here. So that's most of what I've done in the last month, because like I said, the main thing was this projectile system took forever to get working. So as far as just the things I've done, that's about it. And now I'm gonna go into the technical detail of the projectile system, because I'm very happy with the whole process. So basically I started out by having these projectile blueprints, and there's not much logic in here because I've gutted them since, but basically every time you shot a weapon, I would spawn one of these projectiles. It would, you know, get launched wherever it was supposed to get launched. It would do all of its collision with this hitbox, and then it would, you know, it would get destroyed when it was done. Now, this system worked perfectly fine, but the problem is with any more than about 10 to 15 projectiles, the game would start to lag. It didn't matter how good your actual CPU or GPU was, because it was the game thread itself that was just there were just too many things ticking. So it would cause serious lag. So the first optimization I did was I did some research and learned that spawning and destroying projectiles was super intensive on the just the general game thread speed. So instead of spawning and destroying all the actors, I moved over to making a just projectile manager. And initially in here, I would just spawn all of the actors at the beginning, like when you first launched the game. And then when you shot a weapon, all it would do is teleport that actor to the weapon, enable its tick, enable its physics, enable collision, all that stuff. And then when the bullet's lifetime ended or when it hit something, it would then get disabled, hidden, physics and tick disabled, and just get thrown back into the pool of unused projectiles. And doing it like this helped, but I was still only able to get around 20 to 25 projectiles before the lag started to get very noticeable. So then the next thing I learned through more research was that accessing blueprints or accessing actors and just running functions in a bunch of different actors, like the overhead of just accessing the actor and running the function, gets very out of hand, so that even if the logic inside the function is really simple, it can start to really eat up your tick time. So I decided to remove, so every actor had, like every projectile actor had a tick function in it that would update its lifetime and check for collision and everything. So I moved all of that to the projectile manager. So now the projectile actors were basically just static meshes, and that was pretty much it. And all of the logic that happened every frame was in the one projectile manager. And with doing that, I managed to get it to around 30-ish projectiles, 35 projectiles. And then again, the lag would get too bad. It just wasn't feasible. And my whole goal with this was to be able to manage enough projectiles to, make Warframe, which in Warframe it's pretty realistic for you to have, especially with things like fast firing shotguns. You can have 20 to 30 multi-shot firing, 10, 15 shots per second. Like I needed to be able to handle at least a few hundred projectiles at the absolute minimum. So 35 to 40 at a time was not going to cut it. So after that, I learned that even just having actors, just having a bunch of different actors, is very resource intensive, which, it's not something I really learned, but I got to the point where I had tried every possible way that I knew of to optimize the actors, so the only way to move forward was to get rid of actors. So then I ended up completely just scrapping using projectile actors completely in favor of using structs. So then I made this projectile info struct, and this is now all projectiles are. They aren't actors at all. They don't have hitboxes, nothing like that. They are just data. This is an entire projectile. That's all it is. And so with the new system, with my fourth rework, I got rid of the actors, made the projectiles into those structs, and did everything inside of the projectile manager blueprint. But I was still creating 2,000 structs at the beginning, and pooling them and then activating and deactivating when I needed them and when I didn't need them. And I finally figured out at the end that one of the biggest things that was eating up my tick time was just looping through all of the projectiles every time, because every frame I would have to loop through all 2,000 of those projectiles that I had spawned, that I had, like those structs that I had created, to check what was active, move things that were active, draw things if they needed to be drawn. And that was one of the biggest issues. So finally, I just got rid of the whole pooling thing completely. And basically, every time I fire, I just create a struct, throw it into my array of all the projectiles, and then I only loop through that array And then when projectiles are no longer needed, either when they run out of their lifetime or when they hit too many things and run out of punch through, they just get removed from the array. So this array only has as many things in it as is absolutely necessary. There are only as many things in this array as there are active projectiles at a time. And finally, with that 5th rework, oh, and I also learned how to use instance static meshes, which helped a lot with the draw time. So with all of this stuff combined, I finally got it to the point where I could now have around 1,500 projectiles at a time without any noticeable lag. So that's enough that right now I'm happy with it. I'm not moving past that. 1,500 is plenty for me. It's maybe something I could work on later. I could do some more optimizations, like grouping certain projectiles that are close enough together, and doing less collision checks, and only doing sphere casts or line casts one time for 4 bullets that are right next to each other, things like that. But for now, this is plenty for me, and I'm happy with it. So that was my biggest hurdle that I spent a long time on, was redesigning that system over and over and over, as I just learned more and more about Unreal and how to optimize these things and make these things run well. But yeah, after all of that, I'm really happy with the progress that's coming along here. And now that I've finally gotten projectiles done, I can start working on a lot of other fun things, like these the damage numbers. I just did all of that today. It didn't take me very long at all, and they still could use a little work, but for the most part, they're about where I want them. But yeah, there's not really much else to show off. That's pretty much everything. I'm gonna keep working on it. Hopefully the next update won't take as long, since I won't have to do this whole projectile system again. My god, was that a pain. That was very difficult, and I burnt myself out a lot working on that. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this update, and I'll probably be back in a few weeks with another. So thanks for watching if you did watch, and I will continue working on.